Right now, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's workshop leader, Anna Kaufman. Anna is an event manager at the Charles River Museum of Industry and Innovation in Waltham, and she collaborates in this field with her colleagues both locally and globally. And she's been involved in Toastmasters, an organization that builds leadership and communication skills. So let's give a warm welcome to Anna Kaufman.
How do you want the world to see you? How do you want the world to see you? If you could take a second, there's several index cards on the table in front of you, some pens. Take a moment and write down 3 words. 3 words that resonate with you, that you think of when you hear that question. I'll repeat the question. How do you want the world to see you? It could be adjectives, they could be adverbs, whatever feels right for you. To tell us what one of their words is? I already know someone's name, so Pat, do you want to tell us?
Active.
Active. Excellent. Active. And before we all start sharing, which I hope we will, let's take a quick oath that anything that we say in this room, that we share about ourselves, we accept. I take improv classes, and one of the fundamental parts of improv is yes and. So today I'm just asking you for the yes part, where someone will say something and we accept that of them. We accept that they want to be that way. We're all here to improve, to learn, to grow, and to really share with each other a bit. So can we take that oath together, that anything we say we'll accept of each other? Can I get a yes for that?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Pat said she wants to be active. Do we have another person?
Oh, no, I was raising my hand. A leader.
A leader. Excellent. Wonderful. Other words? Anyone? Yes.
Responsible?
Responsible. And can we just say your first name when you first speak?
Oh, Bev.
Bev. And
Carol.
Carol. Responsible. Other words you want to be seen as? You haven't heard from this side of the room yet. Yes?
Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic. All right. And your name?
That with enthusiasm.
Blog. Awesome. Enthusiastic. Yes? Anne? Funny. That's a good one. Excellent. I'm going to share with you my 3 words. Perhaps they'll resonate with you. Perhaps they won't. That's why you have your own words. My 3 words. Are old, beautiful, badass. Now notice confident isn't in there, but confident is part of each one of those. That's what we'll talk about tonight. Now, I had a question before we started. What's the difference between confidence and self-esteem? I think that really they're quite intertwined. We'll uncover a bit of that tonight, how to get there. And did you write confident? Raise your hand if you wrote confident. All right, excellent. Okay, a couple wrote. Maybe confident, whether it's spoken or not, is really part of each of those other words. It takes confidence to be a leader. It takes confidence to be responsible. It takes confidence to be enthusiastic, for sure. Each of those words has that confidence built in there. And Pat also mentioned to me at the beginning that confidence and self-esteem, it might ebb and flow, and we'll cover a bit of how to overcome that throughout your life, throughout your day, throughout any span of time. So I'd like to go over each of these individually and why these words are the ones that I picked for myself. So we'll start with bold. You could say that my choice of outfit tonight is bold. I picked red. It's a power color. See see a little bit of red here and there in the crowd. But bold for me is about making a decision. It's about making a decision that doesn't always mean everyone's going to agree with it. When I was 14, I went to my very first high school dance. And I wanted to do what I was supposed to do, and I wanted to wear some makeup because I thought, I'm a girl, I'm going to a school dance, I should be wearing makeup. So I got all dolled up, put on all the pink and all the blue and all the silver and all the gold and every single piece of mascara and eyeliner and all of those colors that I thought I was supposed to be wearing. Now, of course, I looked ridiculous, but it didn't feel right either. I got to the dance and I was itching and I was scratching and I was uncomfortable and I was awkward and I was weird and I didn't feel like myself. And I knew that I had put on this mask, these colors that didn't feel right. And it made for a really lousy night. After that, I decided it doesn't really feel like I should be wearing makeup. I don't really enjoy putting it on, the whole process, the time it takes. I think maybe I just won't. And guess what? No one noticed. It didn't matter to anyone else. All the fears that I might have had about being judged or being worried that someone would notice and someone would say, oh, well, she's supposed to have makeup on, she should really start putting makeup on. And it doesn't matter whether it's makeup or shoes or outfits. If you wear something or use something or do something that you feel confident about and you make that decision, no one else is going to be bothered by it. No one else is going to worry about it. Like, so many times we don't take an action or we don't do what we want to do because we're afraid of judgment. We're afraid that we're going to get in trouble or that we will have done the wrong thing, we will insult someone, we will offend someone. And really everyone else is just worried about themselves. Really everyone else is just in that same bubble, personally, that they are worried that someone will judge them or someone will think poorly of them. When was the last time that you thought, I want to do this. I think that I should do this. And you didn't. Maybe you wanted to go to a boss and ask for a raise. Maybe you wanted to call up a friend and ask them to go out for dinner. When was the last time that you made a decision to not do that? For fear of judgment, for fear of failure? Sometimes it's just making that decision that can make the difference. On that same piece of paper, take a second and think about what decision you want to make, what action step you want to take. It could be in your professional life, it could be your personal life. Take a second and write down what decision, what bold decision you want to make. All right, let's come back together as a group and hear a couple of your thoughts around what decision it is that you've been not making, or a decision that you're afraid to make, that you've thought about making, but just haven't made that step yet. Anyone? Do you want to share which decision it is? Yes.
All right, put together and do very exciting stuff, trying to figure out what's the next move, what's the best for the customer, and so forth. And I want a part of it, and I have some experience in the past that I feel I can bring to the table. And I've been wanting to meet with the higher execs, just kind of bring it up and maybe ask for, this is my experience, how can I contribute to this and the company, and maybe for some mentorship. And I just can't really bring myself to that stage.
Okay, so asking for mentorship, asking to be part of the team that's doing innovative and exciting
Right.
stuff. Okay, can you tell us a little, remind me your name?
Fanny.
Finn. Is there something you can pinpoint? Is it that you think maybe the reason behind that fear? Is it that you think they might say no? Is it you think you're not experienced enough?
Possibly lack of experience, lack of knowledge. So I was talking to her that maybe I need to spend time doing my homework and building up that knowledge and
Okay.
how I can present myself, how I can, bring out to show that I have these skills and I like to bring. I just don't know how I can fit into that and whether I even fit because it's a very lean machine that's running already.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just
Okay.
rejection of that.
Now, what if you've made the decision to be bold and you approached some of these people in that group and just asked the question? If they said no, you'd be in the same spot you are now, and maybe you'd go back and understand a little bit more of what you needed to work on, or what information you needed to gather, or what kinds of skills that you needed.
Right.
Now, if you approach them and they said yes, it's almost a scarier place to be in.
Right.
And yet that's where you're looking to end. That's your goal.
Right.
So if it's a matter of that uncertainty of what is required, if you don't have the right specifications, if you don't have the right background, all it takes is a question of how could I get into that group? How could I be part of those innovative parts of the company?
Right.
And my mom taught me a long time ago, they don't charge for questions. My current boss said maybe they should, but as far as I know, they still don't.
Right.
I would say it's that one decision, it's that split-second decision that you're in the office, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, whether it's next month, that it takes one step after the other to go up to someone and ask the question. And it might not be perfect, and it might be no, and it might be go back and do some homework, but that will be a step.
Right. And part of it is also the way I approach. I'm afraid that my lack of confidence will come through, and that's even scarier for me to, find myself shivering or stuttering and right. So.
And I bet the people that you'll be talking to were in that same position months, years ago, before they joined the group. Maybe.
Right.
We don't know. But
Can I add to that?
yes. Chris.
So,
And could you share your name?
Hillary, Anna and I used to work together.
Hey.
I don't think you want to ask a yes or no question. You want to ask an open-ended question.
Okay.
And I would say you don't want to say directly, how do I get involved? It's, if you ask something exploratory, where you go and ask people for advice, they tend to be very open and amenable. And you go to them and you say, what you're doing sounds really interesting. Is it possible to learn more about it? I think one day, or eventually in my career, I'd like to do something about it. Something similar. Can you give me advice on how I get there? As opposed to, hi, I want in, let me in.
Right. Right. Okay.
That's literally the only advice I have.
No, that's good. Right. Appreciate it.
That's great. And I would say open-ended questions are great. Even that bold decision of making that first approach and having the first interaction or asking that first question, it's all it takes. It's that split-second decision that, I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but that's where confidence comes from. It's those split-second decisions that we make on a daily basis. I don't wake up every single morning confident. Some mornings I do, and I'm fortunate in that case, but the mornings that I don't, I have to consistently make a decision every minute, every hour, every day to make that bold decision, to make that approach, to ask the question, to do what feels right. And the practice of doing that gets us further and further. And perhaps there are smaller questions or smaller decisions you can make to lead up to that. Because as we know, practice leads to more practice. One of my friends says instead of practice makes perfect, practice makes permanent, which if you keep practicing those decisions, the small ones and the big ones, you'll get to a point where it becomes less of a huge step and more of a small step. Other decisions, other actions that you're afraid to take. Anyone from that back table there?
Well, mine is about guilt.
Okay.
I like to, my decision is to start moving ahead, not let the guilt overcome and become an obstacle, that everyday obstacle.
Okay. So making the decision to let go of some guilt, of some past.
To let go and allow myself to live and not have guilt. That I may create for myself, just, mind games. If I'm away from my parents, then I feel guilty because I can't be there. It's not that they need me right now, but in case they did, I wasn't there.
Mhm.
I think this is a real issue for women. Women, somehow a lot of us think that our role is we're supposed to be there for our parents, or our role is we're supposed to be supportive, or our role, whether it's at work or at home, and that's constantly pulling at your confidence. What you want to do versus what you think you should do. And that is,
That should do is the enemy.
yeah, exactly.
That's
It's
supposed to do.
So what's a higher responsibility, to worry about parents and call them every day and have the discussion that they need, or actually let them chatter and focus on your life to be able to actually help when it really matters and they need?
Are you the only child?
No, but I'm the only daughter.
I can relate to that.
That's right.
But do they have other family in your, she said she was
Not a
from
lot,
Hungary?
yeah, I have a
Is
brother.
there anyone there who's closer geographically to be there?
My brother is, but boys don't treat
Yeah.
their moms the same way. Sometimes.
Back to the difference with women, is that there's that. Part of it's cultural, part of it's societal, it's that supposed to. I would say the same, it's that one step at a time, one decision at a time to say, I'm going to prioritize this over the conversation today. And again, it's not going to be easy. And there are times when you will have to prioritize, and that balance starts to feel hard. Every decision, every time that you make that decision to prioritize yourself in your life and move past some of that guilt, you'll feel a little stronger every single time. Thanks for telling us about that. Another decision that you've been waiting on making.
Oh, thanks, Connie. I can share that, actually, like, attending this seminar, this actually is.
This is your decision.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And this entire day, I was thinking, all right, can I make it 7 o'clock? I think I'm gonna be late because I'm driving I-128, it's gonna be jam, and I hate to be late, and it's rude, and so I say, finally, yes, I'm gonna go. So I made it.
In that split second.
Yeah, yes.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Excellent. And sometimes that's all it is, it's that split second where we say, I'm going to do this. And then once the wheels are in motion, once the first step you've taken, then it's scary to even turn back. Then it's past the point of no return. And that's okay. And each of those steps, each of those decisions, whether you make them consciously with lots of thought and lots of preparation or in that moment where you say, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to approach the colleague, I'm going to submit an application, I'm going to attend a workshop, I'm going to prioritize myself. In each of those moments, you're building a foundation for yourself of confidence, of power, of release, to become all of those 3 words that you wrote down for yourself: a leader, more responsible, more active. Each of those words is underpinned by that base foundation where you make those bold decisions. The second word that I want the world to see me as is beautiful. Now, beautiful, I'm not just talking about external beauty, it's its own whole session. External and internal beauty. And I'd like to do an exercise, that will require a little bit of trust with partners, so please bear with me. This exercise is on inner beauty. And what I'd like to ask is, we have almost an even number, we'll have one group of 3. If you could face away from each other, so you have your backs to each other. And one of you will start talking. You can describe your background, you can describe the most recent trip you took, you can describe a bit about your career, you can talk about yourself, talk about anything you want. Pick a topic and talk for a minute or 2. I'll stop you in, let's say, 2-3 minutes. And the person that's listening, pick up on, I know you've seen this person already, but pick up on cues and characteristics and attributes that have nothing to do with what this person looks like, because you won't be looking at them, you'll only be listening. Here for things like kind, if they're talking about how they take care of their parents. Here for things like adventurous, if they just went on a safari recently. Listen for who this woman is as a person, and what the characteristics and attributes are that could describe them, that have nothing to do with what they look like. Does that make sense? All right. So, give you 2 minutes. You pick who goes first. Just chat about your life professionally, personally, or otherwise. I can partner with you on that. Like, all right. Let's start. Let's pause for a moment. What are some of the adjectives that you heard used when the person that was listening described the person that was speaking?
Compassion.
Compassion. Perfect.
Oh,
Heard that here too.
very
Were any of them
feminine word.
pretty or describing physical beauty? Were they ones that you knew about yourself? A little bit, but weren't really sure? Okay.
Well, I found it interesting, Suela said that she said I was a caring person, yet I don't remember ever saying that, or really, she got that just from just describing what I did
Right.
with my life, so I thought
Absolutely.
that was interesting.
I used the same word to describe Blanca. She never used that word, but it came across in the story that she told me about her son. Other words that surprised you, or that you kind of said, yeah, that's me. So often we describe and we characterize women in our lives, the coworker, the cousin, neighbor. Oh, she's so pretty. Oh, she has great outfits. Oh, I love her hair. Those are the first adjectives and descriptors that we go to. Whereas if you talk about a man, he's so smart, he's so active, he's so motivated. Those are the first words that come to mind. And part of this exercise is to shift that thinking, to we as women, internally, there's so much that we can go to. I heard caring, I heard compassionate, I heard understanding. All of those adjectives and words are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that make us who we are, not the superficial, pretty, all of those words. So knowing and recognizing those adjectives, those characteristics, those attributes about yourself can be so, so critical to helping you realize that that's who you are. So now let's switch and have the other person share a story or tell you about themselves, and then the other person will listen and give feedback. Go for it. Other adjectives, words that you heard to describe you that you hadn't expected, maybe? Yeah.
At first I
Remind us
said
your
I went,
name.
Sohela.
Sorry.
Sorry. I said I want to go to California. That was the thing I wanted to do, and I don't know how to do it. Move to California. And after I explained my life, she said, the first thing she said, she was like, now I understand why you want to go to California. It was like, yeah, that's it. So I guess that's like, it clicks that why I want to do this thing because of what's going on in my life.
Absolutely. So again, that affirmation, that realization of your story is leading you to a certain
Exactly.
point. Excellent. Thank you. Right. The third word that I chose is my favorite. Badass. I was a little worried about writing the whole thing out. I thought maybe I'd put asterisks. I thought that might even be worse. Now what this means to me is that I don't always do what I'm supposed to do. And we talked a little bit earlier about the supposed to and the not really making decisions that are predetermined for you or that society expects of you. But let me give you an example. I drive a car that looks a little bit like this. It's somewhat bigger, a little bit larger than this. I fit in it usually. And so often I'll get comments when I pull up to a gas station or I'm at a red light. It's your boyfriend's car, he let you drive it tonight? Nope, actually it's mine. Oh, it's a nice one. Where's the guy that owns it? Are you borrowing it? No, it's fine. And these are the decisions, going back to the bold decisions. When I found this car, no, not this one again, it is out in the parking lot. When I found this car, it spoke to me. I knew that it was mine, that there was no other car that was going to cut it, and I love it. I love driving it, sitting in it, looking at it, and yet girls aren't supposed to drive muscle cars. They're not supposed to drive bright cars with big engines. Well, sorry, that's how it goes for me. The decisions and the actions that we decide to take, the items that we decide to surround ourselves with, the people that we decide to have in our lives, all of those can either bring up or deteriorate our confidence. Being a badass for me doesn't mean that I rebel against all the rules. It doesn't mean that I wear red jumpsuits all the time. It just means that I kind of do what feels right. I do what gives me what I call the smirk. Now, I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about once I describe it. The smirk is that little chuckle you give yourself when you've done something or are doing something that just feels right in the moment. For me, it happens when I'm driving 70 miles an hour on the highway, and I have the music blasting, and the windows open, and the sunroof down, and it feels right. Singing along to the music and dancing along to the music, and I get that smirk that, yeah, this is exactly where I need to be in this moment. It doesn't matter who sees me dancing, because a lot of people do as they drive by. It doesn't matter how they react. It doesn't matter how loud the music is. That smirk,
It is a life is good smirk.
it's the life is good smirk. Exactly. It's the life is good smirk. That happens for me also when I'm on my other motor vehicle. Also a little bit bigger than this, but looks something like this. When I'm driving again, probably this time 75 or 80 miles down the highway, and I feel that calm, that wind when I'm on my motorcycle, gives me that life is good smirk. And it all feels right with the world. And it doesn't matter what I'm wearing, it doesn't matter what my hair looks like, it doesn't matter who at work thought that I wasn't dressed appropriately. It doesn't matter any of those things. It doesn't matter who's judging me and who isn't. What matters is that I feel that that moment is exactly who I am and who I'm supposed to be. Maybe it happens at the grocery store when you're in line and you look over and there's a gentleman looking at you and kind of exchange a glance and you exchange a look and you leave and you never see him again. But maybe in that moment, you get that smile, that life is good smirk. Now, I won't ask you to share these, but write down for yourself what gets you that life is good smirk. What gives you that feeling? Because the more you can recreate that experience, the more you can find moments in that life is good smirk, the more you will feel grounded and centered in who you are, and the more confidence you will have, I promise. Take a second and write down what for you gets you that life is good smirk. While some of you are still writing, go back to those 3 words you wrote in the very beginning. Those words that answered the question, how do you want the world to see you? How do you get there? How do you get to those 3 words? Is it by making a decision to take that first step? Is it by recognizing those characteristics and attributes and pieces of your inner beauty? Is it by doing something that's completely uncharacteristic and completely different? How do you get there? Let's hear from some of you on some of the challenges, some of the obstacles that you expect you might encounter when getting to that goal, those 3 words. We heard some of the obstacles and some of the decisions that you are worried about making. What do those barriers look like to get you to the point where the world sees you as those 3 adjectives, or those 3 words?
For me, before I approach anyone, I feel like I should do my homework first. I should, study it well and know the subject well before I bring it up. But how do I find time between work and family to even do that? That's what's holding me back.
That's the barrier. I'm going to reframe that barrier a little bit. It sounds to me like the barrier is not knowing how much you're already worth to get to that next point. So if you're afraid of that approach because you think you don't have enough information or enough background or enough education, I see that as more of you're not clear on your worth or your value or what you're bringing to the table, because it very well could be that you already have enough education, enough background, enough context, you've done enough homework. And maybe I think you're looking for extra credit when you've already done the basics, and that first approach might need to just be, what else do I need to do? Because if you keep looking for what else can I learn, what else can I gather information, how else can I present myself, it may be 5-10 years later and you still haven't made that approach. Does that make sense?
Right.
None of it?
Right, when certain things come up from the innovation team, I'm like, I knew that. I could have said something. I had that, from my past experience. But then there are times when they talk about how do you lead a successful presentation. You need to know your shit, right? So you need to really know your content. You have the confidence to be up there and speak it. So that's the kind of part of that homework too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I definitely, there are certain situations where you get up in front of a group and you don't know what you're talking about. It's not very good. The barrier though, I think if you reframe it as viewing that value and that worth that you're bringing, because even though you might not know everything that that group needs, or whoever you're approaching, if it's your boss or if it's a new company, you might not have 100% of what they're looking for, but if you bring 80%, if you bring 75%, or if you're bringing that and then some extra that they didn't even realize they needed, that's where you can add value, and that's where you can show your worth and what you can offer. I hope that helps. Other barriers that you're encountering that you see as obstacles to getting you to those adjectives so that people see you that way, the way that you want to be seen?
When I was a student for many years, like when teacher or professor asked you a question, and I thought my answer was not the best, I think, it's not, then I didn't say anything. So like my teacher or my professor always thought I'm the quiet one. But enough when everybody says their thought and idea, and I think, okay, mine is better than most of them. So I always had that kind of feeling. And I regret I didn't speak it up when I was asked or when the question was raised. I think sometimes a lot of people have that tendency, like, you want it to be perfect, and you think it's not perfect. So you don't want to present.
Mm-hmm. I think part of that is just making that decision to say, I'm going to give this answer, and it may not be right, and it may not be perfect, and it may not be the best, but having something that's not perfect rather than nothing. And we talked a little bit about Anita's idea to, do you mind if I share that? She's made a decision to start a business. The next decision is what the business is. So picking a path and going down that road and making a decision that feels right in the moment, that split second, this is what I'm going to do, whether it's answering a question, presenting a new proposal, choosing a business idea, that split second decision can be the catalyst, and that's the beginning. And every time you make that new decision, it brings you forward and closer to being able to, after you've made that decision so many times, it becomes easier to then say, maybe if I I give this answer, my answer will be the best. Or even if it isn't, I spoke up and I offered my perspective, and that's way better than sitting back and seeing others take the credit.
It took me a long time to realize that, and that's your contribution. So even it's not, you think it's not good enough, or you think it's not the best, you think it's not perfect, but it's showing you're willing to share and you're willing to contribute. And sometimes it's, you know, if it's not, it brings up other people's thoughts and idea. So, you know, and everybody see that, rather than, if you didn't say anything, they don't know anything about what's in your mind. You know, what is your opinion about this?
Your contribution, whether it's perfect or not, is better than no contribution at all, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you. Other obstacles, barriers, things that are in the way of you getting to those goals. Yeah.
So one of my words is to be generous, and one thing I do want to get back into is volunteering again. But I haven't really found an organization that I really am passionate about, and I'm wondering, is it because I have an ego and I feel like I'm being too selfish with my time, thinking, oh well, I could volunteer here, but what if it's not the right fit, and therefore I'm not going to volunteer at all.
Being generous and finding the right place to do that. Excuse me. And that ego piece is interesting that you mentioned. Having the one place as, who am I reading it? Connie. Connie mentioned having the perfect answer. Maybe you're looking for the perfect organization where if you gave a little bit of time to this organization, a little bit of time to that organization, it might take some time to find that perfect fit. And you may never find that perfect fit, and you may decide that there's another organization or one that you start or one that's in another country or in another location that's even better and more aligned with what you want to give the world. Taking that one decision, that first step to say I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to volunteer at this place, this many hours, and doing it one time. And then making the next decision. One decision at a time. I'm going to volunteer here for 2 hours, and then I'm going to worry about what happens after that. Because I think that part of what holds us back is it needs to be perfect. It needs to be exactly what it will be forever. It needs to be the next best thing, and I can't go back. If I make this decision, it's permanent. And oftentimes it's not. Because you want to be generous, because you have that as a goal, as a way that you want people to view you, doing some volunteer work, some time that you're giving to charity or to other organizations is definitely better than that. So,
I think it's complicating for me only because I used to be a volunteer recruiter, and I've seen how it's not been helpful to have one-time volunteers. So I don't want to be in that category of people who volunteer, but they help maybe just a little bit, but not really.
And maybe it's a bigger decision of what's the impact I want to have. What's the organization that's going to allow me to impact the most people in this particular sector, in this particular industry. I want you to think about those 3 words and see how you can incorporate them in your daily lives. I shared my 3 words with you, both beautiful, badass. If they resonate with you, great, take them, live them, be them. If they don't, then use your words, add to them, change them. Those words, write them down. Write them down on paper, write them down as sticky notes, put them around your house, put them in your car. Write them down and live them. If you write them down, sometimes you'll need to fake them, because we sometimes need to fake it till we make it. You may need to fake them for a while until they feel really ingrained. sometimes you'll need to sacrifice them because not every day can we be generous and responsible, and a leader, and active, and kind. It doesn't always happen. Try again the next day. Find support for them. Just as you paired up and talked with pretty much a complete stranger tonight and told them how they appear to you and heard from them some words to describe you, find support from family, from friends, from strangers that can reaffirm what you're doing well, what you're doing right, what you should keep doing. Find ways to make those words part of your everyday life so that they become part of you, so that you can infuse confidence in every decision you make, in every conversation you have, in every action that you take. I hope that this has helped you. I hope that you continue to talk to each other. I'm going to put my contact information up here. So I can reach out and continue to live out those words in whatever way is true to you. Because every single decision, every single action, every day, it won't be easy. It won't be immediate, but it will be long-lasting. And it will give you the confidence to be who you are. Thank you so much.